of who he is, those are generally the kind of people that you would start to see really unusual and crazy kind of miracles happen. And so I want to segue from just walking in the bliss into some of the supernatural manifestations that can roll off the back of that. And how many of you guys know, even in the charismatic world, we sort of have two types of lists of miracles. You have the okie dokie list, and then you have the sketchy stuff, right? It's like healings, yeah, healings are all right, yeah. Gold dust, I'm not too sure about that. Prophecy, yeah, sometimes prophecy is okay. Feathers, ooh, I don't know about that. Speaking in tongues, yeah, speaking in tongues. Levitation, what what we want to do tonight is we want to just go through sort of a laundry list of the sketchy side of things, all right? We want to go through the sketchy ones. Oh my goodness, because I want to expand our horizons to the reality that all things are possible for them who believe, amen? And I also, here's the thing, I think some people have this mentality that we focus too much on the supernatural in the charismatic world. And I don't really believe that we focus too much on the supernatural. I think that we have not focused on it enough. Or we should, let me put it this way, we haven't relied on it enough.
That's right, come on.
Because if you look at the perspective that, say, the Orthodox Church, right? The Orthodox Church has always had this perspective, and John Wesley had the same perspective, that God doesn't just occasionally work miracles, but that everything is a miracle of God. The fact that your atoms are held together in your body, the fact that trees grow out of the ground from a dead seed and you can't even produce life in a laboratory. I mean, the fact that you know your neurons or your synapses in your brains work. I mean, the fact that gravity holds you to the ground, everything is upheld by the hand of God. Everything is breathed by God. Everything, in that sense, is supernatural. It's just that some things happen more frequently than others, like walking on water. And when you have this perspective, and you start to wake up in the morning and you realize that everything's from God. What's he going to do today? What are we going to see today? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Right? There's this whole perspective of expectancy that starts to in your life. You see? And so this is sort of what I want to just really flood us with some testimonies tonight, because how many of you guys know we overcome with the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony. There's something about the power that's on a testimony. And Christians, ultimately Jesus Christ is the word of our testimony, but Christians, we see church history, and some of the stories I'm going to give you, not just present day, but past, we always look at church history interactively, okay? Not just like the popcorn entertainment value. That was cool what happened back then. No, if Moses did it, then I can do it too. You see? A lot more glory on it. So when we look at New Covenant glory, so when we begin to perceive, you know, if I see this guy did something, well, how much more can I operate in this? And so many times throughout church history, God was giving us blueprints. He was giving us zip files of something that his entire people can walk in. Amen? And so I want to inspire your faith. And testimony should inspire us to begin to move into some of these things. All right? Got it? Yeah. Good. Lord. All right. Boom. So, where should we start here? We got a lot of fun things. We left off from the place of ecstasy. I talked about how, you know, sometimes if you're in a deep trance, how many of you guys, you've just been real drunk, or you've been, you know, in worship, or whatever you want to call it, and you almost seem like you're in this visionary experience where you were maybe in South Africa, or Asia, or, you know, somewhere like that, where you geographically, it was like you were having these visions like you were in another place. Raise your hand if that's happened before, okay? Now, one really common thing that happens out of that place of ecstasy is that geographically you may see places, and sometimes you may actually be going there in your spirit. When your spirit goes from one place to another like that, the word for that is a translation miracle, all right? It's what astral projection would try to be a counterfeit of. I think that the big difference there is that you're trying to climb into it versus the Lord leading you in there, all right? Major difference, right? So, translation miracles is when you go from place to place in the Spirit. Now, how many of you guys know your body can go with you sometimes, right? Yes. Just like Philip at Azura, remember he was having this massive revival, massive, people just coming to the Lord left and right, massive outpouring, and then all of a sudden the Lord sucks him out there, takes him out of there physically, and causes him to appear to preach to one dude, this Ethiopian eunuch. Remember that story? Now, how's that for a church building program? Right? You got all of this stuff going on. God zips you out of there to preach to one guy, a guy that we know is not even going to have a kid who can share the stories with. Where's the fruitfulness in that? It's going to make a lot of sense. It's like a dead-end street right here, Lord, right? Well, church history shows us that this one Ethiopian eunuch was the guy who ended up bringing the gospel to Ethiopia. And if you know much about church history, Ethiopia was actually the center of Christianity for quite a number of years.
Yes.
So you never know what God's doing, amen? And so you learn to flow with it. Well, how many of you guys know there are many, many examples of transportation miracles? That'd be a transportation. Translation, your spirit, transportation. Different people have different words for it. Transportation. Transportation would be your physical body goes with you, all right? Anybody ever hear of a man named Arthur Burke? Old English prophetic guy, right? Old English. Old English, like the cologne, right? Like, or no, the drink. English leather. I mean, he's like Bob Jones looks up to him old, right? Like he's... One day, he's in his home in the UK, and he walks out his front door. As soon as he steps out his front door, boom, he's in Africa, physically. He steps right into Africa. Right?
Amazing.
How about, anybody ever hear of a guy named Harold Bredesen? Harold Bredesen. They used to call him the father of the charismatic movement. Back in the 70s, he led this massive revival on Yale campus, where these Ivy League Yale students started speaking in tongues. It was on the cover of Time magazine. They called it Glossolalia, right? And all kinds of miracle stories. Well, this guy, Harold Bredesen, one time, the Lord tells him just to pack his bags. You know, he's one of those types, right? The Lord, pack your bags, right? So he's got his bags packed. He just goes to the airport, and, you know, just one of those kind of deals, you know. You know many people like this, right? The Lord told me to pack my bags. So he's standing in the airport, and he doesn't know what to do. So he asked the lady at the counter. He said, "You have something for me?" And she goes, "Nope." So he just kind of bumbles along. He goes into the bathroom. He goes like in the bathroom stall, just kind of trancing out. Walks out of the bathroom stall, finds himself standing in the airport in Moscow, Russia.
Wow.
How do you guys know, back in those days, you didn't just get a one-way ticket to Moscow, right? It didn't work that way. You guys probably, a lot of you guys, Josh Mills was stationed out of here for a while. How many of you guys have heard Josh's story with China? Have you guys heard this story? Raise your hand if you have heard this. Well, I'll share it because most of you guys haven't. I might butcher it, maybe you know better than I do. Josh is in a meeting one time, and he's in the glory, and he's got his microphone in his hand, and then his eyes are closed or something, and then instantly, boom, he's sucked up. He finds himself physically, tangibly standing in a real elevator packed full of Chinese people. Wow. And his first thought is, how do I get out of here? Right? And so the door opens, and he just follows these Chinese guys down the street. He just figures to follow these guys. They end up going to like some underground church meeting. Wow. He didn't understand a lick of Chinese. It's like he was just singing in the spirit or something. The pastor comes up, gives him a business card, right? Thanks for coming to China. And so Josh is like, well, what do I do, right? So he thinks, I'll just go back to the elevator. Beat me up, Jesus. Right? So he goes, gets back in the elevator, right? Instantly, sucked right back into the meeting. Not a split second passed by, microphone in his hand. Right? Now, everybody has some story of something that happened, right? I remember one time there was this guy telling me how Gabriel showed up every morning, and I had breakfast with him, and gave him the lottery numbers for that day or whatever. Told him that, and so everybody's got their story, but every now and then, after a while, you appreciate a little bit of substance off the back of the story. You know what I mean? There are a few vain imaginations out there, all right? For crying out loud, let's just call it what it is. So I like when there's some proof in the pudding, right? Well, that afternoon, after the meeting, Josh goes back to his hotel room, reaches in his pocket, still has the business card from the Chinese pastor in his pocket. A couple weeks later, if I'm not mistaken, gets a letter in the mail, thank you for coming to China. Transportation. How about a Bible?